price you pay to pursue your dreams. Grinding every day to get that dream. Ain't no holding back until you get your shot. One day you're gonna open your eyes and be on top. That's the price you pay to pursue your dreams. Grinding every day to get that dream. Ain't no holding back until you get your shot. One day you're gonna open your eyes and be on top. Been playing this game since I was 10 years of age. I wanted to make my mark ever since my Pop Warner days. When I strapped that helmet, I'm knocking dudes into a blaze. A lockdown corner going all the way through 7th and 8th grade. Entering high school, I'm ready to write another page. Busting my ass and lifting weights. It's a much higher level, but I'm still making plays. No time to party or bask in my glory days. It's college preparatory classes every single day. Living my life with that singular goal. It's the fire inside that makes me whole. Looking in the mirror, my muscles swole. I'm on a mission, and I'm never gonna stop. When the ball's in the air like Sherman, I'm a hawk. And I promise I'll overcome whatever life throws at me. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Ageless Movement podcast. I'm your co-host, Scott Lohman.
I'm Sang Poinak.
Okay, we're going to bring you part 2 of our podcast. And this week, we're going to focus on technology and aging. And that's an interesting topic that I know we'll both have a lot to say on. But before we get into that, we just want to have a few COVID updates here. We don't want to get too far into the weeds on numbers and things like that. But as you all know, the numbers have been consistently going down the last few weeks. And of course, the big fear that many epidemiologists have, and if you listen to people like Dr. Michael Osterholm, he's very concerned about what's going on in regards to the different variations, like the UK variant, the B117, I gotta say this right, B117 variant in Florida, and how Florida is now what do they say? It has the 30% of all of the UK variant cases are coming out of Florida. So just not taking proper precautions isn't really helping the situation at all. So what I want to talk about is give you some relevant information. Many people have been wearing or inquiring about double masking. So I figured today we go over a little bit on how to double mask properly. And I'm really basing the information that I'm going to present to you today based on Michael Osterholm's talk a week ago, okay? So if you want to know more, he's the guy to check in with. So what we have here is what I consider to be the gold standard of mask wearing in the pandemic. This is called an N95 mask. It's a great mask. It filters out 95% of any particulate that you're inhaling. I know a lot of people don't have these. I mean, I think I paid $2.50 and got 2 of these. So they're pretty expensive.
So each. You paid $5.
Yeah, $5. Yeah. So what you'll typically see people wearing is a cotton mask like this. Now this is a very good mask. It's very thick. It prevents a lot of things from getting into your airway passages, and this is a very good mask to wear. What they're saying is, though, about epidemiologists are saying that 40% or 50% increase in the level of that it's contagious with the variant, the UK variant. They're recommending that you do wear double masks. So how do you properly wear a double mask? Well, everyone's got a little bit of different theories about how they do that. Typically you wear a cotton mask. It looks something like this, covers everything up. And I find this mask to be very comfortable to wear at work all day long because, I breathe pretty well through here. I'm not going to say it's perfect. It's thick. So I feel like it does a pretty good job with, preventing some of my viral pellets when I breathe and talk. But it's not 100% ideal, not even close. This is a much better option. But as you can see, this isn't the greatest option to wear all day long, especially if you're around the same sort of people all the time. Now, I wear this mask when I go grocery shopping, or when I'm around a larger group of people, especially if I have to go indoors to get something. This is what I wear. And as you can see, it goes on here, goes around the ears. And you can immediately tell, yeah, my Dumbo ears are, and that's the thing. Now, for some of you, they have big ears like me, you're going to look like Dumbo. The downside of this is it really starts to hurt your ears after a while because it keeps pulling them down. Okay, I kind of wish they had, like, instead of it strapping just on the ears, I wish they had another way to strap, like one this way and one that way. I think that would be a lot better way to do it. But what I found, when I wear a beanie, it holds my ears up and I can wear it longer. Okay, now let's try a double mask operation here. So you put this on. Now, I don't believe you really need a double mask and N95. But one of my clients did that the other day, and it looked kind of interesting. He put a surgical mask over it, which I think is a better option than what I'm about to do now. But I will try this. It goes on, and here we are. I'm double masked. So that's a good option. The only thing you want to be aware of, and I'll take the mask off so you can hear me better. The only thing that you want to be aware of is that you're not wearing, my ears are still here. Sometimes they stick out like that, after I've been wearing this for a little long period of time. But the cool thing is I can actually kind of fly with these ears. So one of the things that, what the hell were we talking about?
Double masking.
Double masking, thank you. So with double masking, if you wear a mask that's too tight and it's really pushing up against you and you have to really forcefully ventilate, that's not a good thing, because what's going to happen is it's going to kind of pinch the corners and air is going to come in through there. And there is a chance that you could, increase your exposure by doing that. So I highly recommend just get an N95. When you're going to go grocery shopping or be in any potential risky situation, this is the best mask to wear. Now, you're probably wondering, are there different types of N95 masks? There are. Sang and I bought a bunch of N95 masks in 2017 when the trend for forest fires in California really started happening. Now, this is the most ideal for a smoky air kind of day, because you see the large filter here. This is great. This is going to be maximal protection. And the other thing I like about this particular mask is not only does it straps behind the head like that, and then there's another strap here so you can double strap it. And I like these a lot, but these are mostly worn by people that are, say, painting a car even, or sanding, not really painting, but like sanding. If you're around really dirty air, like when we get into fire season, which usually starts around September, late August, this is the mask to have during that time, okay? All right, wanted to differentiate between the two different types of masks. We got these at Harbor Freight, and there were plenty there. In fact, I think I bought 2 or 3 packages of these. So they're around. You just have to look for them. And like I said, these are the most ideal. And you'll know when you put this on, you can really feel like clean air you're breathing because of all the filtering. Anything you want to add to masking? You have a little different technique. I know you use a medical mask over a cotton mask, right?
I use surgical mask underneath my other mask,
Yeah.
which is, it has more elastic in it. So the difference between Scott's mask and my mask is I feel like I have a pretty good seal going around because it's made by a company that basically makes compression socks. So I like that one a whole lot. I mean, like if I were to get on a commercial plane again, like that's probably one way I would do it. I mean, right now there's so many people coming out with things, like I'm waiting for my new travel mask, which was on back order. So it's technically supposed to be out in March or April. And I think if you try to buy it now, it's out until June or July. So, you know, and it's a whole entire face shield. So probably more something that I'm going to wear going into the nursing home to see my dad. So full seal all the way around the face with the vents at the chin. So, I mean, there's all kinds of masks out there. You just have to read and decide which kind you feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, that's a good point, definitely. So I hope we've answered whatever questions you may have about double masking. Just remember, the N95 is really the way to go if you want simplicity. But if you want a double mask, make sure they fit you comfortably and that you're not struggling to ventilate. That's an important thing. Okay? All right, that's all I pretty much have this week on COVID. What we really want to get into now is technology and aging. And I really think this is quite a big issue for me personally, because my father has always been very resistant to anything technology. What can I say? The man grew up in a mechanical age. He's a phenomenal mechanic. He doesn't like anything that has to do with technology. It's just...
Yeah, but both of our dads are 92. My dad's the same way. My dad... Yeah, at this point, I'm not even sure he can answer a phone properly.
I know, my dad can't make a call on a phone properly like a cell phone, for sure. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We're looking at a lot of interesting pieces of technology that seniors are embracing. Now, I think what's fascinating about a lot of this is 61% of seniors embrace technology more during the COVID pandemic. Now, that's an absolutely critical reality for people, because a lot of doctor's appointments now are being handled through video. If you don't own a smartphone, you don't own any type of computer with a camera with a webcam on it, or any type of device like an iPad, how do you communicate with your doctor nowadays? And one thing I found particularly interesting is a lot of the seniors that have gotten their Pfizer or their Moderna vaccine were on a waiting list, and they were actually sending out emails. So I find that really interesting too, because a lot of the people in this age group, you know, they're talking 75 and over, don't have email or don't use it on a regular basis. In fact, one of my students was telling me her husband was notified by her doctor's office that, hey, how come you haven't, you know, gone through the process of getting your vaccine? And it was actually his wife that saw the email and then quickly responded. So that's going to continue to be an issue for some people. So going over some of these other statistics here, this is really interesting. 300% increase in seniors using telemedicine services. That's astonishing. And that's an important thing that had to happen during this time period. A lot of people are using technology to order their prescriptions, 34%. Seniors who monitor their health using wearable devices. Now that's, I don't even have a wearable device, by the way. 70% don't, but 28% do. That's a big jump, I think.
Yeah, for me, like, that's actually, if I had to pick an item, so one is, number one, having a smartphone, because a lot of them don't even like smartphones, is crucial. But this is going to be number two, because I've actually had a student come to one of my classes, and he was gone for, I don't know, a couple weeks. And he came back and he pulled me aside and he's like, look, I didn't want you to think like that I didn't like your class or anything, but I had trouble one night and my watch was sending out alerts, and I didn't know until the next morning, but apparently it noticed that I had irregular heartbeat, and I ended up going to the hospital. And so that's where I've been this whole time. And literally, it's so funny because he's like, literally, my Apple Watch probably saved my life. And I think at that point it might have even been like one of the newer versions, because my version is the first version, which does not have a heart monitor or any type of electrocardiogram, any of that. So, I mean, ever since then, which was actually pre-pandemic, so 2019, that's when he told me that. And I mean, he was telling all his golf buddies, because this was at a country club, everybody needs to get one of these watches. And in some ways, like, I think this one's really important, because so many people are, I mean, either they have AFib and they don't learn about it until much later. And these watches now are so, they're capable of doing, and actually the other thing that thing, because we've talked about this one, mine doesn't work, so I can't actually show you. The reason why it's here is because I don't know what it needs. But anyway, but this is the pulse oximeter that we talked about a while back. Yeah, I think the batteries, well, there might not be a battery. I think I took it out. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
that explains like that.
so, no, I think it didn't work
Yeah.
before, because I have a newer one at work that I use occasionally on my clients when they're working out. But I mean, this thing measures your oxygen level, and I think also the Apple Watches, they're able to do it too. So, I mean, that's way easier than having to carry, much less carry one of these things around. I only have one because my mom used to always ask, like, what's my oxygen level? So that's the only reason why I have multiples of these.
It's going to be pretty interesting to think about in the future what smartphones are going to be capable of. And I almost hesitate to call them smartphones because they're not really phones anymore. They're just basically personal computers. They have similar chip technology that's in personal computers. So that's what they are. Okay, let's go down the line a little bit here to some of the other things. What's also interesting on here is that 6 in 10 have only left the house to go basically shopping or to the pharmacy due to COVID-19. 27% have said they've left their house to do whatever they wanted. I wish that was a smaller percentage. 35% are worried about contracting COVID because they may be hit with a surprise bill, of course. And then 4 in 10 think those who have a Medicare Advantage plan and who contract COVID-19 are getting better care. That's interesting. 12% use the special enrollment period, special period to enroll in Medicare during COVID. So they're using technology to enroll. That's good. It probably speeds the process up quite a bit. Also, what was it? There was 47%, or 75% of respondents say they have a smart TV and are using a streaming device. That's really interesting to me because I pretty much have only seen younger people do that. And 47% are admitting to binge watching. But 66% still have a cable TV set up. So, there you go. All right. I really think this is going to be, the effects of COVID is going to have long-lasting effects on how we, see our doctors and everything else. Even before the pandemic, there were a few appointments I had with my primary care physician that were either telephone appointments. Yeah, I think they were telephone appointments. And then I had a couple with her during this period that were video. And I even had a PT session that was on video as well. And to be honest, like, if you need to see, say, a dermatologist because you have something that looks funny on your skin, it's so easy to take a picture of it and just send it in an email or text it or have a video chat and you can go right up and look at it that way. I don't know that you actually have to be in the room for some of this stuff. The only other thing that I find that's a little bit disturbing, I think there should be limits on how much video appointments you have, because sometimes doctors notice things about you when they see you in person, as opposed to seeing just video. It's not quite the same. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, even before this pandemic, I mean, the price of medicine is going up every year. So we were already headed in this direction anyway. And then I think my question this morning to you is how many people are actually entering the healthcare field after enduring a pandemic anyway. Therefore, I mean, resources are going to be pretty limited. So people are going to have to get creative, the insurance companies and so forth, which they are, which is why telemedicine actually is right up their alley, because if they're already cutting down times for doctors to see patients, then that's the best way to do it. And if you want to cut some more costs, then basically don't pay for an office. So that's the direction we're heading. I mean, I've told you this about a few of my clients that, I mean, in our discussion, I can tell, like, you know, they probably would not fare well if they didn't know how to use technology going in.
Yeah.
So it's better to learn it now and kind of have some sort of working basis for it, because, I mean, that's where we're moving. I mean, they've talked about this. I'm sure, I don't know where I've heard this, but yeah, pretty soon, like, your doctor may not even live in the same state as you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think for a lot of checkups and things, you can do that. But I still think there should be appointments, you know, where they see you in person.
So that's where this all goes down
Yeah.
to. If you want insurance to pay for your medicine,
Yeah.
this is more likely the direction.
Yeah.
If you are willing to pay more or go out of your way to get some other type of insurance, then yeah, you probably have an open book. I mean, just last week or the week before, I've been working with one of my clients to get to a physical therapist. You know, he had been kind of dragging his feet on doing it, and I'm very much like, you need to get this done. So it usually entails an email from me, which I gave him an option where the PT offered every type of service you can imagine. However, it is an out-of-pocket service. So, of course, he didn't take it.
Yeah.
So now he insists on going to Stanford, and that's great. But they gave him a video,
Yeah.
which he's not happy about. But that's the thing. If you want to go the route of not paying for it because you have insurance, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's I think about my knee rehab, and I spent a lot of money on PTs and other specialists because I feel like that's what I needed to be ideal, to get to that level that I wanted to be at from a performance standpoint. And also from a pain standpoint. I know early on in the rehab there was a lot of pain, and I was seeing a massage therapist way more than I normally would. You know, and I had a foot specialist look at me that was outside of my insurance network, and a couple PTs. And yeah, you know, you do have to pay for that stuff if it's really important to you, and you definitely want to be your best version of yourself physically, then that's definitely something that you have to do.
Yeah. And I mean, even with training, like, I know for me, if I didn't already have history with some of my clients, it would be a really hard transition to start with somebody brand new on a video screen.
Yeah, it's definitely not my preferred method for training people, that is for sure, and even teaching. But I'm thankful that we have it, because just imagine if it was the mid-70s, or hell, even the 80s and the early 90s. Now, in the mid-90s, there was this video technology, but it wasn't something that was available to every individual that had a piece of simple technology like a smartphone. I mean, cell phones were just starting to become a normal thing around the mid-90s, and it was really more like the late 90s. So yeah, definitely. I'm thankful for the technology. It's kept us employed. and it's kept us helping people. But, you know, at some point though, like you're going to have to come in for certain things. I mean, you need to get lab work done. I don't know how you can do that through a phone. You still need to show up.
Yourself like I do.
Yeah, that is a possibility.
Better get good at pricking your own finger.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, definitely. That's an interesting thing. I don't know that they're going to want to leave a lot of that to us in the future. I mean, it's one thing to prick your blood or spit into something for DNA, but it's...
Isn't that how you get your colon checked now?
Well, you actually, yeah, you do actually. You're right. They give you the device, but then you do have to bring it to the lab.
You brought yours to the lab?
I believe you had to bring it to the lab. I don't know that you could just simply mail it, but maybe we were mailing it. I don't remember. I did that about 1.5 years ago, from what I remember. It might have had postage on it. Yeah. But you still have to show up before a surgery. They still want to draw blood. They're not having you do that yourself. And I would think for some issues, they're going to probably want to see you in person. But think about it. They can limit so much of the appointments that you have with your doctors by just using video. And yeah, it's probably going to save the consumer quite a bit of money. It's, you know, the member of whatever health insurance company it is. It's interesting where this is all going in terms of technology. Any other thoughts on that?
It's going to change so quickly. It will be interesting to see what comes out of all of this post-pandemic.
Yeah.
I think that right now there's a lot of things happening that, I mean, depending on how much you notice or are on social media or read the news and all that, there's a lot going on. And I mean, just because of where we are, you know, we have a lot of venture capitalists, so you hear about a lot of things. I mean, we do through the grapevine. So I think there's a lot that's happening.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me when you talk about technology, and not just technology and aging, but technology and medicine. There's so many different opinions about it. You know, and I hear all the time, I remember once when I was at one of my races, we're working the course, and you're standing there for a couple hours, so you get to talking to people. And I remember somebody asked me if I had traveled lately, and I told them I'd been to Vancouver, Canada. And, you know, anytime, I don't know what it is about Americans. Every time you mention something about Canada, Canadian, oh, those Canadians can't stand their health care. And I'm just like, always scratching my head going, really? So you're an expert on Canadian health care? It's funny to me. Like, it just becomes like a talking point for so many people in America. And yet when you talk to Canadians, I always get a different opinion. And when I read about, you know, what we do here and what Canadians think of it, they just shake their head. And it doesn't matter if they're conservative or liberal or whatever. They all believe in a national healthcare system. It's funny. And somebody was telling me, oh, but they ration so much. Here's a little number for rationing, if you want rationing. 45,000 people die in America a year. This is on average. It may waver a little less or a little more.
This is pre-pandemic.
Yes, this is pre. You're right.
Like, wow, that number just.
That was pre-pandemic. Good point. 45,000 people a year on average die in America because they don't have health insurance. It's not because they died of some terminal crazy illness that just hit them all at once. No, they had health problems that led up to their death because they weren't managing their health right, because they didn't have the preventative medicine that you get with health insurance. So if anybody ever tries to tell you, we don't ration in America, oh, we ration all right. In some cases, we ration whole people. So it's interesting. There's a lot to talk about when you're talking about technology and healthcare, because it's becoming such a front and center issue, especially when you're living in the middle of a pandemic. And you can't talk about anything medical and healthcare without talking about technology, because they're all hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, even how they do studies and all that, how they come up with vaccines.
Right?
That all came because we've advanced in our technology to make all that happen.
True. Very true. And, technology was, partly the reason why we got the vaccines as quickly as we did. But something to keep in mind, you can't put anything on the market without it going through 3 stages of trials. Okay? 3 stages. Now, the reason why, and I know I've mentioned this in other podcasts, but I do want to state this again. The reason why the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines popped up so quickly, it was about a year's time, was because of funding. The federal government spent billions on it, as they should have. You had a lot of private financing that was involved in it as well. So there was never any issue with money. Normally, when you go through stage 1 and you're done, you have to kind of show your preliminary results and get approval to get more money to go into stage 2, and same thing, stage 3, and then you go into peer review, and then once you go through peer review, you need more funding to actually put the drug on the market. But here's the thing. Because there was so much money available during this whole process of these 3 stages, 3 trial stages, they were working on the production simultaneously. So once that thing went through peer review and got acceptance to be used on the US market, boom, the production was ready to roll. That's not normal. And that's what kind of threw people into a loop, thinking these were rushed. And even the name Operation Warp Speed freaks out some people, according to Dr. Michael Osterholm. I think it's kind of a cool name. Warp Speed. Anyway, so one other thing I do want to mention on COVID is that even if you've gotten your vaccine, you definitely want to continue to practice all your everything. Hand sanitizing, washing hands, wearing a mask, keeping your social distance from other people that you don't live with. And it is important because we don't know for a fact, the data isn't around yet. I should say it like this, the data is not currently available at the moment to disseminate whether or not these vaccines prevent the spread of the COVID virus. It probably does, but we don't know that, so don't assume it does that. And then the other thing is a little bit of sobering news. I really predicted this earlier. I think by the end of summer, we'll have most of the country vaccinated. Canada's already out vaccinating everyone. And that's a lot easier, keep in mind. Canada's got less people, a smaller population than Japan does. That's hard to believe, but it's true. They are like 38 million when I checked it, and Japan's like just around 40 million. So they have as many people as we do here in California in a much smaller place in Japan.
You mean where they have one healthcare system?
Ooh, good point. Very good. Yeah. Yeah, and they've fared a lot better than we have. And that's not to say they haven't had a resurgence in COVID, but they've definitely done a better job of containing it and just buying into what the citizens there are buying into what you have to do to protect yourself. The other interesting thing is, and this is sobering news, Canada and the US look like we're going to be highly vaccinated. So what you're going to start to see is, as 2021 comes to an end, you're going to see the first world countries are going to be largely vaccinated. The scary part is there's third world countries that are going to be largely unvaccinated. And you'll probably say at home, well, why is that a problem? We got ours. Well, it is a problem because, Americans like to travel. And I'm sure there's Americans that are going to go to Liberia or Rwanda or some of these places that are, I would say, have fragmented government, and that's the nicest way of saying it. They're basically run by warlords fighting over diamonds and things like that and minerals. And, probably the last thing, if you're living in Rwanda and you're absolutely in poverty, is worrying about a pandemic when you have to worry about child soldiers shooting at you. So yeah, it's very complicated in the world, and I don't know that there's enough of an effort to vaccinate everyone in third world countries, and this is going to create problems in first world countries, because even if you shut the borders down and you don't let anybody in from third world countries, which I don't think is the right thing to do long term, maybe short term, but the problem is Americans will travel to some of these places, either for work or for pleasure, or for whatever reason they're going to do it. They're going to come back here, and that's where you're going to get more variations of COVID. Like somebody asked Dr. Michael Osterholm last week, why are these variants popping up? Well, they're popping up because we keep spreading this virus around. That's what viruses do. The proteins change. When those proteins change, it can confuse your autoimmune system. And that's why just because you got COVID in March or April or May, hell, even in the summer, doesn't mean you're not going to get it again, or get another variant of it later on and maybe get hit even harder. So that's why it's important to get everyone vaccinated, and hopefully these vaccines stop the spread. If they do, that's going to be a big victory for us, and it will help, but we're going to have to get treatment out to everyone in the world, because this is a world problem. This is not just an America problem or a Canada problem or a China problem.
Thank goodness for the Gates Foundation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm continuously amazed and astonished at people who dedicate their lives to just making humanity better. Because we know there's a lot of people out there that are dedicated to just the opposite of that. And it's great. It's great to see people in the NGOs, the non-government organizations in other countries, contact tracing, trying to determine what the source is going to be for the next pandemic. And really just being on top of it and providing all this information for governments so we can learn and prepare. Those aren't things we do very easily as human beings. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for people that do that. My heart goes out to them, and my respect towards them, along with, of course, frontline workers, doctors and nurses and everyone else that's fighting the fight, the good fight. So anything else you want to add to this podcast?
No.
Yeah, I think we covered bases there today. So all you seniors that are out there that are engaging in technology,
keep it up.
Kudos. For real, that's very important.
It's always a learning curve.
Isn't it? It's always a learning curve.
And it's good for the brain. Like, that's you just keep going for as long as you can. You just keep learning. So I think I've said that once before. But that's why it's so important, so that you can keep up with the world and be able to take care of yourself in these situations in order to make sure you have a place in line for your vaccine. You know when to come back in. I mean, as much as I hate social media myself, to me, that's where I learn a lot of things, and it helps me go, oh, I need to go look this up, and I need to spend time researching and not just believing everything that everybody tells me.
Oh yeah, we discussed this a couple podcasts ago. Don't go to your favorite political commentator for health information. It's stupid. It's insane. You shouldn't have one person where you're getting all your information from. You should definitely do research, get the facts straight in your head, so when you do listen to somebody tell you about this stuff, it's either you're going to be able to connect the dots, or you're going to see,
it's not right.
Yeah, something's wrong. Because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I'm embarrassed to say it. There's a few doctors out there that are spreading misinformation. I'm trying to remember the doctor's name, but there was a doctor who is a, what's it called when you deliver babies? Pediatrician? Obstetrician. Yeah. Yeah, I think she was an obstetrician. She was saying that it permanently is going to change your DNA to use the messenger RNA vaccines. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's a doctor saying that. So now the people that aren't science people, that want to believe, that are anti-vax by nature, they're really not going to do it because a doctor just said not to do it. So find out this information. There's a lot of good resources out there. All these periodicals like The Lancet, the American Journal of Medicine, they all have really good and easy to understand articles for people that aren't in the medical field. They disseminate it quite well. And if you don't like reading those articles, you can look at MedCram. There's really legitimate doctors on YouTube that have podcasts like Dr. Osterholm. Just check them out. They'll definitely fill you in on this stuff. All right? So, if I didn't mention at the beginning, please like and subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you soon, all right? Take care.